Hello, this is Antoinette Lasensky reporting on a live event that I hosted in Second Life. This is my Second Life avatar, Belcanto Guardian. I invited Second Life avatar Benton Wunderlich to speak to my middle school general music students. Benton is the avatar of David Schwartz, president and founder of Music Academy Online.
Huge interest in the supernatural and ghosts and, weird murders and things like that happened in the 19th century. Jack the Ripper happened in the 19th century. So there were all sorts of, this was one of the things that interested and fascinated people during the 19th century, and that's why we chose this. Here's a little fun fact. Queen Victoria's husband was German, and when he came and they married, he started the tradition of putting up a tree in the house for Christmas. And before long, everybody in England and throughout the United States were using Christmas trees. So even the practice of the Christmas tree kind of goes back to the 19th century. And you can see why people might be interested in it if you think about the bigger picture, because, the connection with nature, as something that accompanies religion. I mean, you can start to see that things like that would become popular subjects for writing about in classical music. Things about nature. Mahler wrote about nature. He also wrote about religion. So there's all sorts of connections that you can find. And once you start thinking about your own time period, when you're living now, I'll bet you start to see some of the things that have been on people's minds, either related or reflected in the music that you're listening to, or the books that you're reading, or even the music on the radio, or classical music, or film music, or any of that. If you start to see it, all of a sudden you can realize that the entire world is really connected in a way that is much more than just one subject. It's all subjects: science and art and literature and music. They all interconnect. And over here we have some general information about the early Romantic period, which is the first half of the 19th century. So instead of just going and reading text on the web, you can actually talk to somebody and see sites, and it would be a big kind of a way of online tutoring or something. There's a picture of the crime scene that we based this off of, but it's not up right now. But this would look exactly as it is. Kind of here's you can actually watch video in here, and this is a video of me talking about a composer, Gustav Mahler, on one of the shows, Wacky Things. Now this is the makings of an art gallery of 19th century art, and what you see here are three different approaches to painting in the 19th century. You see a very kind of a scientific, balanced, meticulous, everything's very proportioned. You have a kind of a, I guess you would call it a pastoral, classical kind of a view of ancient ruins as a way of kind of looking back. And then you have this very emotive painting by Van Gogh. And really, you could find three pieces of music, then lots and lots of pieces like them, that would accompany each of these three styles of painting. You could have very romantic, expressive, personal music of Franz Liszt, for example. You can have kind of the meticulousness, the proportion, the look back on classical stuff in the music of Johannes Brahms, for example. So you can really see this kind of thing all the time in every period. And so by putting all of this stuff together, if you have an interest in art or literature or science even, you'll be able to understand a lot more than you might realize about classical music. And so keep that in mind as you develop your interests. 19th century was the supernatural and mysterious forces, because they had just started using electricity. So, these invisible waves of energy were things that people felt could allow them to speak with the dead, the beyond, all of that kind of thing. So we put a seance room in here. And because it's a ghost or a haunted house, supposedly there's a chest up on the top floor of Lizzie's house that emanates a lot of heat, so you can see the chest and you can see heat coming from it. Toy room up here in a way, and what the toy room shows you is it's a collection of things from the 19th century. And we have a camera, which was invented. We have cannon. Of course, there were a lot of wars in Europe and the United States. Had the Civil War. You see the first ironclad ship down there on the monitor from the Civil War, and a ball and cup game, and a bike, and the submarine from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which was a science fiction book written in the 19th century, and of course a dollhouse. So when you start putting some of these artifacts together, kind of like an archaeologist, you can get a bigger picture of what the 19th century was all about. You can see that, one, technology was important, especially the use of iron. Science fiction was something that people were interested in. There were a lot of wars because of this canon. And also you can see that the role of children in the family was changing in the 19th century as people's lifestyles began to improve. Now they had more leisure time to develop things that may not serve any other purpose except to entertain a child, like a ball and cup game. So that's something that you can see from putting little, things together, kind of like a time capsule. I like to teach music appreciation and make things, put things in terms that people already understand, rather than barraging them with a bunch of musical terms. We can talk about the musical terms after we kind of like the music. So one of the things that I do is I use the Gettysburg Address as a way of helping people understand how to listen to the first movement of many, many symphonies and many, many sonatas.
He has since moved his work to a private sim that reflects Second Life but provides a safer environment, particularly for school-aged children,